Here we go, back to our taps and accents exercise. We went through accent on the beat, we went through accent on the ands, and we went through combinations that are different than that. So I'm going to play a couple of different combinations here and see if you can figure out which beat the accent falls on. Here we go. 1, 2, ready, and go, and. I hope you were able to play along and count along and try to figure out where the accents fell within the counting system that we described. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That counting system assumes 4 beats per measure. Each beat has a primary part, the number 1, 2, 3, 4, and it also has a subdivided beat, the and, which cuts the beat in half. I played a series of exercises for you, and you were going to try to figure out where the accents fell. Now I'm going to give you the answers to that little quiz. We already talked about an accent that would fall on 1 and an accent that would fall on the and of 2, and that would create a syncopated kind of rhythm, and that sounded like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we did that in the third line of our previous exercise. But we also added this. See if you caught this one. We added other accents, and I'll tell you, here's where they were. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Say that along with me. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4. Play that along with me with your right hand. 1 and 2 and ready and go and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4. Left hand. 1 and 2 and 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4. And that was the second half of line 3. And these exercises will be available so that you can actually see them and play along with them, which will greatly benefit your reading and your musicality. Let's try that line all together again. Here it is. It was 1 and 2 and 3, and that repeated. 1 and 2 and then our next pattern. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, and then repeat left-handed. And 2 and 1 and 2 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And always remember, we're using anchor strokes, so our fingers are remaining on the sticks. For the full accents, we're lifting, activating our forearm, using our back fingers, our tendons, our muscles, using the weight of our arm for an accent stroke. And for the taps, we're merely dropping. No lift whatsoever. Let's try that line again a little quicker. Here we go. 1 and 2 and ready and go and. 1 and 2 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, 4. 1, 2 and. 1 and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and there you have it. The fourth line was slightly different. Let's see if you figured it out. I'll play it once again and then we'll talk about it. That one may sound a little bit tricky because at some points we have 2 accents in a row. So far we've had 1 accent and 1, 2, or 3 taps and then another accent. Now we're getting to the point where we can actually play 2 accents in a row. And when you do that, you consciously have to think about lifting a second time. Stroke, anchor, stroke again. Both times. In order to fulfill the accent sound quality, it takes 2 lifts in a row. Here's that exercise again. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 is how it starts. So we actually have an and a 4 as accents, both full strokes. Try that with me. 2, ready, and go, and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And that repeats itself. Let's do it twice. Ready, and go, and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Don't forget about the and at the end of the 2 full strokes. And 4. You also have to drop then an and. So this is making you consciously think about your coordination and your physical movements more. As before, we had 1 accent and several taps. Now we have combinations that move quickly. Tap, accent, accent, tap. So you consciously have to think about what your sticks are doing. Let me play that one more time for you and play along. 1, 2, ready, and go, and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Drop. Don't forget to drop that. Then the pattern changes. Here's the next half of that pattern. 1, tricky again. 1 and 2 and 3. Now we're into a sequence with 2 accents and 1 tap. So you only have 1 try at getting the tap right instead of 3 or 4 or 5. Again, your coordination is growing. Your brain is growing. I can feel it right now. 2 accents and a tap. See that? In succession. If you weren't counting, you could feel this as 1, 2, 1, 1, 2, 1. You could make a waltz out of this. Waltz. But that's not what it is. Sometimes reading music gets a little bit tricky, so you have to intellectually think about what's happening. What's happening here is we're counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we're playing 2 accents, 1 tap. Count it with me. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3 and 4 and 1. It's got kind of a cool groove. Let's try it with our left hand. 1, 2, ready, and go, and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Pretty cool, huh? Let's do that whole line. See if we can remember the entire sequence. Here it is. 1, 2, ready, and go, and. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Here comes the tricky part. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. 1 and 2 and 3. Here's the doubles. 1 and 2 and 3. 4 and 1 and 2. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 double and 4. 1 double and 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. Good. Let's do it a little bit quicker. Here we go. I'm going to count this off. Many times in the marching percussion practice, drumline practice sessions, the center snare or some chosen section leader or captain will count off an exercise to keep the talking to a minimum and make sure that we're on task and we're always working. And it's just kind of cool to just not talk and just be in the room and just start drumming kind of spontaneously. So the standard count off goes like this. You would hear 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then the line would begin to play. So I'm going to now count you off, and we're going to replay the exercise that we just discussed, which incorporates 2 accents in a row and 1 tap. Here's the count off. And begin now. 1, 2, and 3, and 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Quiz. Match grip, traditional grip. Which grip are we using? Match grip, because they match. Fulcrum is where? Between the thumb, first 2 fingers, back fingers create an anchor stroke. That's where we're at so far. Cool. Let's do some very repetitive things now. We're going to do a series of 2 measures of taps. Now think about that. How many notes are contained in 2 measures? If we decided that we're counting 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, that's 8 notes. It's only 4 numbers, only 4 counts, but we're subdividing into half beats or ands. So we have the potential for 8 taps in each measure. So if we play 2 measures, that means we're playing 16 notes, 16 taps. Try that with me. All the same, all drops, no lift. 2, ready, and go, and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3, and now all accents. 2 and 3 and 4 and 2, and repeat with left hand. Taps, no lift, 3 and 4, and always count. Never stop counting. And accents. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Good job. To wrap up this lesson, we're going to play all of those lines of taps and accents. Taps and accents. Remember, the first line was on the beat, then off the beat, then on the beat, then on the end of 2. And then the other lines got progressively a little more tricky. So hopefully you were able to follow along and maybe sketch that out and write it for yourself. If not, the music will be available, and once you have the music in front of you and a metronome, you'll be jamming. So here we go. We're going to play that whole page one more time. I'm going to count it off. 1, 2, here we go. 2, all taps, all accents, full strokes. Anchor, then all taps, all accents. Good job. Keep working.